There is a space where you are all you need, where you are all you want. All there is here. Welcome to the Source Connection, conversations about who we truly are, the possibilities of creation and the new earth we are birthing, with your hosts, Tarah Long and Liz B.
And that we wear a witch hat every time we do it.
Yes, every time. All right, welcome, guys. So we're starting a new little series here in the Source Connection. It's called the Source Connection After Dark. And what better day to initiate our first conversation than the day on Hallows Eve or Halloween, which we know there's so many different traditions of Halloween we can go into. Also, Dia de los Muertos is in a couple of days. So this is really a time for us to if there are any loved ones that have passed, for example, we can maybe connect with them. Of course, that's the story. We can connect with them maybe a little bit easier. The veil is a little bit thinner. And also, I heard a fun story in a Halloween it was more pagan tradition yoga class the other day. And she was saying the original story of why we wear costumes and why we dress in other people's clothing. Originally, that's what they did. They switched clothing and they wore masks, was so that the spirits were confused and they couldn't play their games and their trickery on you because they didn't know who was who. So I thought that was really cute.
That's really cute. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, I thought that was sweet. So in our After Dark series, we're just going right into it. We're hoping we're a little looser, maybe it's a little juicier. We'll maybe get a little more real. You know what I mean? Like open about our personal journeys and things of that nature. That's my hope, my intention.
So we're not starting with any grounding or moment right now. We're just going to dive right into. And I think that when you talk about the veil being thin, and interestingly enough,
I know
veil, and Hallow Eves, and there's so many tones to that, and just so many possibilities of what this is about. And maybe that's what I've been feeling. The veil is thinner, and I'm accessing, or that we collectively agree that the veil is thinner. The veil is always thin for me. Yeah. I was taking yesterday, and I have the ability to see energetic fields and things like that. And sometimes I have to allow myself to digest that experience on a deeper level, because it can be very disconcerting and very ungrounding. You wonder, am I here or am I somewhere else in this moment? And exactly a week ago, I had this very interesting, I was getting ready to go to bed, and I felt completely out of my body, but not in a way that was scary or I could see my body from a distance, but I was still in my physical body, but I was not in it. Like my was not in the body. And so sometimes it takes a moment to just digest and integrate that, having that veil being thin most of the time. Yeah. And I noticed about myself that as much as I love being with people, I need probably the same amount of being by myself, and I'm not getting that the past couple of years. It's really taking a toll on me.
Oh, I totally understand that. I absolutely need a lot of alone time. I need more alone time than with people. Or I feel better, I should say. I feel more grounded, more myself. Like if I'm going and just around, I can do it, but I'm like, I just need just an hour just to myself, or, whatever, even though I'm having tons of fun or whatever it is. So I absolutely understand that, because like you, I'm very sensitive to energies and things. And we did a ghost walking tour in a town next to us called Jonesboro, which is the oldest town in Tennessee. And so, oh my gosh, walking down Main Street, hearing all the stories, and I could, yes, it could be suggestion at the moment because he's telling the story, but we like went in certain places to feel, energies. And I was like, yep, that's enough. I'm right here and being told I want to stop. I don't want to go further, And I went into this antique store the other day upstairs, and I was like, oh, I'm definitely not alone here, and I went and talked to the lady. She's like, oh yeah, there's definitely, other folks with us, but most of the time they're not there to harm or hurt or do anything, and that's a whole nother conversation that we don't need to have right now. But just as you're saying, so sensitive to physical form people, but also, all the other energies that are there that are no longer in physical form and are just all around. And I'm like, oh yeah.
And we're so much multi-layered too, right? That we forget that every being, either in physical form or not, that we're interacting is also multi-layered. So you could be around somebody and be noticing stuff about them that's not being said or not being addressed or whatever thing. And then that becomes also something to interact with.
Yeah.
You talked about being in the antique store, and just recently when we were visiting Tennessee and we were at the Appalachian Museum.
Oh, yeah.
They had a Hall of Fame. It's this kind of like a warehouse space, and they brought the people that kind of meant something to them, that kind of wrote the history of that area, right? And so they had personal belongings, they had pictures, they had, all kinds of things about instruments and all kinds of things. And when I went upstairs with my daughter, she immediately, she came close and she said, oh, this is really weird up here. And I noticed it too. We had a completely different atmosphere to it. And interestingly enough, as we turned left, there was a murder bench that somebody had been murdered on.
Ooh.
And then as you walk, they had like the old school, they had caskets, they had the chariot where they would, bring the caskets to they had the doctor's chariot where you would come and do the consultations, whatever thing. And it was palpable how much thicker the energy field was in space.
When you said thick, that is literally the word I said it in my mind the exact same time that you spoke it aloud, was thick. Because that's what it feels like. When I went upstairs in that antique store, I was just like thick and heavy, and and I didn't feel like bad. It wasn't bad. It was just like, oh, I don't want to be up here for very long, because it's like you're wading through like mud or something. It's almost like there's some energy there that's not clear and not been for them, whoever and whatever those energies are, and not been maybe been there for a long time. Stagnant, I guess is the word I would say.
Yeah, and it may not even, sometimes I think, is it a beingness, or is it just the collective agreement upon what this means or what the space, I don't know,
I don't know either.
And that we've just kind of materialized, because sometimes I have not a hard time, but an interesting time believing that and anything's possible, that beings would just choose to be in one place. Like they're so one thing, or in this energetic thing stays there like a being. And I'm like, how is that even possible?
Yeah. Right. And maybe it's just, to me, what comes up is maybe it's just a portion of their energy, right? Because I don't know any, like I said, like we always say, anything is possible. But, to me, the idea that you die and then there's just a soul and it's one thing and it goes, but that doesn't seem like, because we are so multidimensional and multi-layered and all of that, there are different parts of us, maybe different places. And maybe it's a lot of times I think it's those who are still here physically that can keep someone around too, because the desire for them to be there is there. in these cases where maybe they've been there for a long time. I don't know. Maybe it's still a portion of them, or who knows? It doesn't even really matter.
There is
just
quality.
It's a different quality to the space. And it's just being aware of that really opens you up, right, to the possibilities of all things. And what happens when we aren't in physical form anymore? Well, nobody knows for sure, but we know it's not the end we know that, or I feel that, of course, it's not the end of anything. It's just a transition. And there's a lot of traditions that do certain things when the body dies, so that their loved one does move on in a rapid or beautiful way, and they don't stay stuck. I don't know.
Their culture celebrate, right? Someone's
yes,
finally of that bodysuit or whatever way that they. It's probably a very different experience than what we have past of like, you wear black, it's dark.
Mm-hmm. Everybody's sad.
It's like there's no room for celebration in a way. Right. And that's one of the things that I like talking about, is how do we shift the conversation about that?
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
And in shifting the conversations, shift the experience of that.
Yeah. And how can we make death a really beautiful, sacred thing, especially if it's coming for someone, right? Like I was watching this show this weekend, and it was so beautiful the way in which they honored this man. It was a couple, and it was a young couple, and they had a young daughter, and he was dying of cancer. And so, but it was the recognition of it. First of all, it was like, let's recognize, not try to ignore and keep him in the hospital and run tests until the day of his last breath, right? No, so they went home, and okay, now you're dying. It was this recognition of this is happening, and talking to the young daughter who's 7, and like, she's like, I know daddy's dying, and so they had an open conversation about it, and just really using those last days as just a celebration and a joy to be together. And then this therapist told the mom, when he passes, take her to him, to his body, take her to him, so she can touch him, and so that's like a experience, so she knows that's gonna, so you're not ignoring it, you're not pushing it away, you're not just, oh, it's sad, let's cry, and it was I was ugly crying. I mean, I was just like, oh, this is like one of the most beautiful things, portrayals I've seen, like in a show or a TV or movie of death. I mean, it was so beautiful. And to be there in a death, is it not any different than being there in a birth? Oh, yeah, it's really beautiful.
Makes me think of my friend Danae. And I saw her the last week of her life. You stare death in the face like that.
Yeah.
You just see it in someone's being, right?
Yeah.
And they didn't from their daughter. She was home. And I have a couple of friends who went to visit because they were close geographically. One of them said that the last day, it was the 4th of July weekend, and they had a party. And the way Danae sat with her sister Joy, they didn't need to say anything. They're just being together. It was so beautiful to witness that. She said they were just sharing space and time and companionship, and there was nothing that needed to be said. I've had grief as one of my biggest teachers in this life, and it really helps us get clear on what really matters, right? What is the end of what is valued and honorable? Because life is it's like a petal of a flower. It's so beautiful. It's so fragile. And at any moment, it can just be ripped or just like
fall away.
Had a big drop of rain and just it's done, And her service was so beautiful. And that woman was to me one of the examples of just love embodied in was like, how can I just love this person more? How can I just show more love? And she really embodied that, in her presence and in her demeanor and all of that. And yeah, I'm so grateful that I was blessed with her presence in my life. We're very short physical time. But that deeper connection beyond this time and space, that was before and it'll be after and all that. So when you described that family taking that in, it really back to that experience, I'm not hiding from death, but just looking it in the eyes. And there's a nurse, hospice nurse on YouTube, and it's really beautiful what she's doing. People submit videos of their dying family members, and she posts so people can get a glimpse of what death looks like to different people, and moments of death, and certain breathing patterns, and like things that people don't get to see, to demystify what this thing is that we all at some point agreed to. I think that at some level we're like, oh, maybe, it doesn't need to, it does happen.
It does, at least for now it does. And maybe that's part of why, maybe we decided and agreed upon that, because it does, to me, make our time here so much more precious. If we knew that the body would never die or drop, I don't know, what would that be like to know that we just go on in this form versus, well, we do have a limited time here. And I mean, it makes it so beautiful. What a gift.
Yeah. So much richer.
So much richer. Yeah. I'm grateful for that, because I don't think I want to go on in this form forever anyway. I love my form, but you know what I mean? Like, I need some variety. I need some change here. So I'll take it.
One thing that I learned through her dying process was I received a letter from her before I knew that she knew she was dying. And that has prompted me to just the other day I found, and it's something that's been on my mind for a while, but I found this little pack of cards, and I got them, and I decided that it sounds so morbid and it makes me want to cry, but that I'm gonna also take my time writing my letters,
Yeah.
And I don't need to wait, because I may not know when I'm gonna die.
Right. Yeah.
Some people have warning, and then you just know that it's coming.
Right.
And I've been blessed in my life, because when my father passed, we didn't know when, but we saw the progression.
Yeah.
Right. My mother, very similar. It always comes unexpectedly, unless it's a long, long, long time, and you're just
right.
But those things happen within a year and 6 months. So it's very fast to comprehend and to wrap your head around it. And to an extent, I think that, I don't know if we fully integrate that,
Yeah, I don't know, as a human alive, that, I mean, can we, fully integrate like the fact that our bodies die? Like, on some level, if we fully did, then we would be dead. So we would just drop dead. We'd be like, okay, bye. So there's, feels like there's a reason for that,
I have
but
a cat trying to escape here. Give me a sec.
Yes, you little rascal. Well, I'll just keep going, because I love that idea of writing letters to those who might be left behind for a little while in their physical form. And because we don't know, and yeah, that just is a really sweet, because I think all the time, well, I don't have anything for anyone to sort out other than like, I don't have an estate necessarily.
Bill and the simple things of just
Yeah. So my family knows my wishes and all of that. I've expressed that, but we don't know. It could come in an instant, and then for them to have something that I wrote, or to think of receiving something like that is just so cherished.
It really is. It really is. And as I said, because I didn't know that was my last letter that I was going to receive from her, and that, and all that, it meant even more after she passed,
Yeah, I received a letter or a card that my grandma, who just passed recently, a couple months ago, or maybe a month ago, she wrote me a card before she broke her hip and went into the hospital and had the surgery and the massive stroke and all that. She just wrote me a letter like she would any other time. Hi, love you. The weather, blah, 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 tell, so-and-so hi, tell your brother to call me, that kind of thing. And I received that letter the day after she passed in the mail. And it was just, so sweet, because she didn't even know, it wasn't like goodbye. It wasn't any of that. It was just like,
it was just a letter.
Just a letter and a normal day for her,
But a letter.
Yeah. Oh, it's so sweet. It's so sweet to receive that.
I like to link up I'd like to link something up on this episode's note. The podcast I really like, and I enjoyed listening. It's called Death in the Afternoon, and it's all things death related. And they did an episode about things to get in order, so you don't leave people scrambling behind. And
yes,
it was really, it's very practical. It's very matter of fact. It's like little details, people will keep their power of attorney or whatever wishes in their safe or whatever, but then they don't have anybody that can get to
nobody can get.
So have that in their emails, if something happens, because she details a story of a woman whose husband had something happen and was in the hospital, but she had to go home and get the paperwork. By the time she got there, they had arranged things for him, that it was not
what he wanted.
And so just simple things, to make things easier in that process. And having experienced that process a few times, it's really a time where most people don't have a lot of assistance. You just kind of go by default. You don't really think too much about things because you're trying to orchestrate for the practicality of dealing with, a body and all of that. And then there's grief involved, and not everyone has support at that time. Maybe some people, family and friends, will really come and gather and take care of certain things. But I like to link that up so people can listen. Put their
definitely,
and make it easier for everybody who is their kitty
left and grieving and all of that. And that's a great invitation, is to, maybe listen to that podcast if it feels right for you. But also, what is it that you want to be left behind? So maybe write those letters or do videos, or what is it that you would want people to be left with? Do you want them to, how do you want them to experience that process? Of course, we can't be in control of that, but you know what I mean? Like, write the letters, do the videos, get your things in order, whatever it is for you. Maybe now is always the time, really, to think about those things and to prepare. And even if you're young and healthy, I mean, we don't know. We never know how much time we have left, So that's a beautiful invitation to just think about your loved ones.
And also another invitation is, if you do have someone who is experiencing a loved one transitioning, close or whatever, how can you support? So Danae told me a story, after she had passed. He said, one of our close friends just brought me a cooler one day filled with beverages, beers and sparkly waters and different things. And he said, why did you bring that? And he said, because I want to make it easy on you. When people come to visit, you can just say, hey, would you like a drink, and just grab something out of the cooler. It's such a beautiful act of just knowing how to support somebody in a time. And he told me, like, well, I would have never thought about that. Like, never thought about that, And so how can you also be that person who just makes things something a little easier at that time?
So beautiful. That really brings tears to my eyes.
Like
that. That's so small, but just so powerful and significant. And you're really thinking so ahead. It's just something that person does not have the bandwidth for at all.
Oh,
right?
He said people are going to come visit and they're going to sit down with you, and they just want you to it's just one less thing that you would have to think. And it was really touching to me too. And maybe I'll finish with this other story. This is not a personal story to me. I heard this story, so I'm going to relate it in the best way I can. This woman was having lunch one day with her family. It was a Sunday, and she heard that a neighborhood kid had passed away. And her whole world in that moment just came to a halt, and she thought, oh my God, what is this mother feeling? What is the father feeling? I'm here sitting down, having lunch with my family. My kids are healthy. We're eating, we're going to see grandma, whatever thing. And she gathered. She didn't know this. They knew this family, but we're not close to them necessarily, right? I think I don't know if it was a kid that went to the same school the kids went, or it was just a neighborhood thing, something of the like. And she called another friend and she said, let's gather 12 women. And for the next whole year, we're going to give them once a month something that's going to bring them joy and make them think of the kid in a sweet way. The kid loved wind charms, and there were all these little things they knew about the child. And they did this mystery gifts. They dropped them once a month. The family had no idea where the gifts were coming from. So once a month. So it was 12 of them. So it was a whole year.
Yeah.
Every month where they would plan the gifts. So they got his favorite restaurant, a gift card to his favorite restaurant, and they got a wind charm. There was other things, right, that they did, but they were relating how wonderful it was to be like this Santa Claus figure, to just bring somebody some joy. And then they would try to do it in a way that they didn't see the car dropping, and they were scared of the cameras and how is this going to work, right? And then for a whole year, and they didn't know who they were. And they just, brightened that family for a whole year in memory and reverence for that kid's life. Strangers, they were not close to the family. They knew closer friends, so they knew more about them and all that. But I thought, wow, what a beautiful way to just support somebody through such a thing,
Right.
And
that's unfathomable, that pain, It's just really exquisite.
Just so profound, that somebody even thought about that.
Yeah.
That moment, you know. Yeah. And I guess the invitation from me would be like, how can we honor each other's lives every day, every opportunity that we have? And how can we live more in a way that we see each other, you know, when we are with them, that we really see them for who they are in that moment, and that we tell them how much they mean to us. You know, and just really don't take things for granted.
Yeah. Is there anyone that comes to your heart when Liz said that, you know, that you just want to reach out to maybe now and say, hi, I love you, or, you know, you're beautiful, or whatever, you know, anything.
Yeah.
And I feel really called, and you can tell me if this doesn't feel good for you, Liz, since we're in After Dark, because we had this really juicy conversation before we press record, and then things just kind of went a different way, which is beautiful.
Halloween came in.
Right. And then Halloween came up, and then we started talking about all of these amazing things. But I really love this topic. I think it's so relevant. It's so like just boom for this time. And I think there's so many layers to it and it also relates to death in so many ways. Money, the lack of money, having it, not having it. What does it mean? The worthiness, it's like this whole game. And so do you want to share like kind of where you're at? And then, you know, we can talk about that, or.
Yeah, that's fine. I was telling Tara before we started recording that I woke up and I was having all this self-worth conflicts in relation to, you know, what am I doing here and how am I showing up and how am I of service and how does that get translated in financial abundance or not, and in the discomfort or the comfort of that, right? And how much I still default to one thing equaling the other. Like, if I don't have that, that means I'm not worthy of that. Or, right, how those lines are so blurred and so not clear. And then so we started having the whole conversation about all of that, which we can share some of now.
Yeah. Because I just feel like in these After Dark, you know, maybe it's a little more opinion, because I know in our normal episodes, you know, we stay mostly pretty neutral, I think, for the most part, so that people can explore for themselves, which is always a good idea. But, you know, and I shared with Liz and the whole money thing, I can totally relate. I think every single person on the planet can relate to that. Like, because we've been conditioned. I mean, even saying, oh, what is his or her worth? When someone says that, what does that mean? How much money do they have? That's what that means. What's his worth? Ooh, what, you know, oh, they have whatever. What is their liquid? You know, it's just so fucking ridiculous that we think that how much money you have has anything to do with you as a person, right? That has anything to do with your value or how pure and clear you might be, or how much inner work you've done, or because how many people are like have all the money and we know exactly, we're like, have they done? Not in judgment of, you know, people who have money. I love money is great. Come on down, you know, flood the floodgates. But I think the reason why I wanted to talk about this so much is that what is the world we want to create around money now? Money is not bad. I'm not saying it's bad. We're not saying it's bad or that it's good, but it comes from a place that is inherently, it's about control. That's why money was created, right? To control us, period. Like, it's a slave system. There's no other way to put why money was created. It's a slave system. So we can still use it and be intentional, and it can feel really good and all of that. But is the world we want to create where we're still tied to that, and to money creates access? You have to have money to do certain things and to experience certain things and all of that. Or do we want to create a world where something else is possible? I'm not saying I know what that is, but I know that it is. I know it in every fiber of my being, my whole life. I've tried to do the whole money game, years ago, and definitely in my 30s, I was like, yeah, I'm going to make this much this month. And, did all the manifestation stuff, all of that. It all just felt basically like shit for me, because if it didn't happen, then I'm like, what did I do wrong? What am I doing wrong? How come that didn't work? Making myself wrong, making what I'm doing or not doing wrong. When instead we talk about all the time, the value is us. So what is that? I don't know what it's going to look like, but we have to start somewhere. We have to start somewhere. We have to start breaking these ties of what we've been conditioned to believe that money means or doesn't mean. I really strongly feel that. So, you can tell I get really excited when I talk about this topic. So who's with me? Who's with me? And let's create, come on, you guys, we can do this. We are many. We are many. We don't need money to create access and luxury and beautiful things in the world. Maybe right now, to some extent, we do, right? But I believe that the tides are turning. What do you think?
And that's the conversation we're having. I can be in that place with you. And I was referring to where we're still in a place where you got to pay to play, right? And everything revolves around that. Like there's this beautiful hotel in Tulum that I'm like, I dream of going. I got to pay to play. Do you want that kind of beauty? Do you want that kind of luxury? Do you want that kind of feeling in you? Give me the money and you can access that.
Yeah.
The work is, how can I access that in every moment, regardless of what am I surrounded by? And I'm pretty good at doing that because I'm always in awe and wonder. So the little to me are the most magnificent, right? When I see the butterflies fluttering around and I'm just totally captured by the luxury of being alive. Because it is a luxury, right? It's a privilege.
Yes.
Experience, to see, to hear, and all that. And so I think that every time I'm faced with the moments where I'm equaling my worth with money, it's like a deeper layer of a breakthrough, a deeper awareness of where I could still be stuck, where I am still attaching something to an idea that's just an agreement, that's just, a distortion. Let's put it that way. And I think that that's the thing with money, is that a lot of the ideas are based on distortion.
Yes.
And that's why the whole thing feels murky and doesn't feel right. When money, it's an energy. It's a thought, right? It is an agreement, right? And then Tara said something along the lines of being able to experience things, right? And not necessarily doesn't mean it costs all that money. And then I was kind of playing devil's advocate, but I said, it still costed money. Like if somebody gifted and somebody paid for it, right? Yeah. So that makes me think of how, in general, the most generous people, what still was my experience, and this could be changing, can be the people who really see the beauty in the simplicity, right? And they just share that space, and they will, they may not have money to give, but they have a bowl of food to serve you when you come to their, even if that's the only food that they have and they don't know what they're going to eat tomorrow. And so I think that the shift in paradigm is the shift in the realization of how we attach to the stories of money. You perfectly said, even in our society, we say, oh, this person, what is their net worth? Meaning, how much is Elon Musk worth? He's worth a lot of money. And then you hear spiritual circles, well, I've done a lot of work. Now I can get this. Like I cleared all this stuff up. And now here, look at me. It translates into houses and cars and trips and all of that. So I think that we're being offered an opportunity to look at the relationship, right? Deeply. And does this mean that? Is it this truth about this?
Yeah.
You know, and to also realize, I used to work for one of the biggest music producers. I won't name names. And, these people, this family had all the money you can think of, all the access you can think of. And I remember having a specific conversation where he told me, like, I have everything and I'm not happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember how much that impacted me, because coming from the world where at that time, we do all these things, right? We do the career, we do the schooling, we do the university, you do the career to then have this, to access this, to then amount this, to then retire, whatever that is. And to think, wow, well, this person did all that in their own way, in, his own way, but still doesn't find fulfillment in all stuff, right? So what is it? And then my personal question is, every time it happens, why am I still getting caught on that train? Like, what is in this train that I need to clear?
Yeah.
Why am I still carrying some level of distortion in relation to it?
Yeah, I think we all do, as humans, because it's been part of our conditioning for so long. And that in order for us to uproot those weeds and to look at them and to clear them out, that's the question is what is it? And in this moment, what am I really feeling right now about money? Am I really feeling the lack? What is my relationship to money in this moment? Does it feel good to give it? Does it not feel good to give it? Like all of these questions, all of these things. And maybe on some level, there will always be some little hitch, because it's so deep, and it's part of the slave self. To me, that is the deepest root that we have, so it's going to be the last to go. I think it's going to be the last to go. At least I think for myself, because I still have those thoughts like, oh, but is this going to work out? And then I remember everything has always worked out.
Yeah, of course.
I've always had everything I need and more. And I've had the most beautiful life and the most beautiful experiences. And can I remember and be grateful for that? And as we've said so many times, money doesn't make you happy. It can bring some fun things and some joy, and there's nothing wrong with that. And yay, let's have it all, but we don't need it. The happiest people that I've ever seen in my life have hardly anything. It's just simple. They're just simple. It's so simple. So that's, I guess, the other invitation, if you'd like to take it, is to really feel yourself, feel your body, feel how it feels when you're interacting with money, with your own money, with paying for something, giving it. Does it feel aligned for you? Does it feel good for you? And if not, what might shift there? Because maybe that's where we start in this whole care economy thing, is that we get really intentional about how we're using money at all.
Totally. Yeah. Even every time you swipe your card or pay for something, right? Infuse that moment with some intentionality and
and let us know in the comments, or you can email us at connect@thesourceconnection.com. That's also where you can find us, is thesourceconnection.com. You can also find us on Odyssey, YouTube, Spotify, Patreon.
Instagram.
Yeah, we now have an Instagram, of course. I forget because it's kind of new.
Twitter account, just because Twitter is such an interesting place for me. And it's kind of my guilty pleasure to just go and watch. Yeah, it's like my once a week, like I'm going to take 30 minutes and what the hell?
What the hell's going on Twitter? It's such a shit show over there.
Yeah, but it's a webbing. And it's really interesting how I see things kind of weaving in there. And that's been the most fascinating thing to witness, is the weaving that takes place. For some reason, it's different than other places. Been contemplating a Source Connection Twitter account. We'll see how that.
Yeah, Liz might be. I never go on Twitter. It just doesn't call me. So if you want to do it, go for it, sister. Well, yeah. To stay tuned.
TBD.
TBD. And let us know how you enjoyed our first After Dark, the Source Connection. And what topics, because we're open to like juicy, maybe some taboo topics. I mean, we just want to get into some things here. So
bring it.
Bring it. Mwah.